Good morning. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Olga Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to see you all in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform today. It's been 10 years of the war, and today's day is 726 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor. And today we have invited you for a press conference which announces the initiative called Letters to a Free Crimea. It happens so that February is a month rich with painful memories for us, and one of such memories is the occupation of Crimea, temporary occupation 10 years ago, and this is the event dedicated to this date. So let me introduce our speakers today with whom we will talk about this initiative. Joining us today are Sytnikova, Chief Consultant of the Crimean Platform Support Service at the mission of the President of Ukraine in Autonomous Republic of Crimea. Also joining us is Nesterenko, Project Manager at ZMINA Human Rights Center, Larisa Denysenko, Human Rights Activist, Ambassador of Political Prisoner Remzi Bekirova, Member of the Executive Board of PEN Ukraine, and also joining us is Alexei Yelnitsky, Deputy Head of Political Department of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. Good morning, dear friends. Miss Anna, let's start with you. Let's talk about this event. So, whom are the letters gonna be written to? And we will obviously talk about the political prisoners of Crimea. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for paying attention to this event. This initiative emerged last year, and it was started with our understanding of the fact that no matter how much we talk at the international and national level, the topic of political prisoners is still lesser known for the people who are not interested in Crimea topic. We understand that there are different topics for different target audiences, and this type of writing letters, it's more interesting. You find out more about a person, you can write them, you can express your fondness or just to ask how are they doing, and it's extremely important for those people because we were in communication with the families of political prisoners, and they said that these letters for the political prisoners in Russian prisons, in the prisons in occupied Crimea, is just fresh air, freedom. So we realized that this event is pretty possible, so we decided pretty important. So we've decided to continue it, and it's part of the government actions to commemorate 26th of February, the day of occupation of Crimea. Also joining us is Mr. Alexei from MFA, who help us to bring our activity to the international level to get more people involved. So whom are we writing these letters to? For the time being, the representative office knows about the number of 208 political prisoners of Crimea, people who were either detained in Crimea or the Crimeans, or people detained in Kherson and Zaporizhia region and then moved to a temporarily occupied Crimea, and unfortunately some of them are already deported to Russian Federation. And within these 2 years, we observed that apart from the classical political prisoners who were mostly Crimean Tatars who were detained due to their pro-Ukrainian position, were added with the people who were abducted from Kherson and Zaporizhia regions and brought to Crimea, and the number of these people is pretty extensive. And also cases of the people were added who regardless of the fact of occupation for the 10 years, they continue insurging and saying that Crimea is supposed to be Ukrainian. So with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the Russians acted in a pretty wild manner. They updated some articles in their criminal and administrative code, and now there are 2 articles for discrediting of armed forces of Russian Federation, and also there is an administrative article with the same accusation, and based on those criminal cases there were 8 proceedings initiated and more than 60 administrative proceedings. So it can be very various. Some could have made like a blue and yellow nails. Someone may have cut the portrait of Putin or seen red viburnum. So this is how the people resist, and it's important for us. It's an important signal that no matter what, people continue fighting there, and we should continue fighting for them no matter what. We should continue remembering about them and telling about them. So it's yet another thing that fuels this activity. And unfortunately, not of these people are on the list of our political prisoners to whom you can write letters. We don't know where they are. Some of them are being transported. For some of them, the places of detention are unknown, because it mostly happens with the people who were abducted from Kherson and Zaporizhia regions. So basically, there are no legal proceedings against them. They are kept in the basements, then brought to Crimea, and then they emerge somehow somewhere. So this category is the most difficult, I would say, but you can get familiarized with this list one way or another on our website, in our social media. We will have locations to where you will be able to write letters to political prisoners. It will be the premises of Ukrainian PEN, so please attend their events where you will be able to write those letters. Also, our colleagues from the Ministry of Reintegration, who are unfortunately absent here for the time being, but who get involved in the activity, they provide their venues for writing letters. And also, we plan that such letters can be written in the Crimean house. Soon we will make a post where you will be able to read all of it. So the activity will be going on for 4 months until the 19th of May. So you will get enough time to get familiarized with those people, to find out about their history, their story, to find out where they are, and to write letters to them. Obviously, there are certain requirements to write in letters. There is an instruction that you can find also, but we understand there is a prison censorship, so unfortunately the letters should be written in Russian language. Those are the conditions, and touch less upon some political moments, but at least tell about what you've seen, what you want to share with those people. You can even send like crayons, some drawings, something to support those people. We'll have two options about how to send the letters. If you send them from Ukraine, you can send them either online to email that is also specified on our web resources, or you can send a physical letter to the PO box. If you live abroad, you can send a letter to Russian Federation. They will not get to occupied Crimea, but they will end up in Russian Federation, from where they will be forwarded to Crimea. But at the same time, the administration of the prison may see that there will be letters coming from Germany, United States, New Zealand, Australia, and they understand that those people are being talked about everywhere, and that's important for just physical saving of those people, because unfortunately last year 2 political prisoners have died and more people are in difficult condition. My colleague from ZMINA may tell more about that. So we have to fight for every single of our citizens, and remember, if no one talks, if we don't talk about them, then no one will talk about them. And to wrap up my address, I would like to remind about the short story. Server Mustafayev, he's a civil journalist, a political prisoner, activist of Crimean solidarity, and in one of his letters he is writing that we do appreciate Ukraine for everything what they do for us, for every single person on a political level who talks about us. But I was meeting Ukrainian citizens who moved to Russia back in year 2021, and they were arrested for something, and they were in prison with me, and those people, they didn't know anything about us. They didn't know anything about Crimea. So we tried to fight for Crimea even from outside from inside the prison, and those people outside the prison, they don't even want to care about this. So I urge everybody to write a letter to a political prisoner to support them, to remind everybody that Crimea is, was, and will be Ukraine. Thank you, Miss Anna. Miss Victoria, let's talk about the condition of Ukrainian political prisoners. You work on collection of this information on a systemic basis, so what do we know for the time being? Good. morning. Actually, within the 10 years of occupation, the human rights persons documented many cases of violation of human rights in occupied Crimea, specifically with regard to illegal persecution and detention of civil journalists, Crimean terrorists. We see that it's a systemic policy of Russian Federation against the people who have pro-Ukrainian political position, who do not want to live in Russia, and respectively, we know for sure what is the condition of the political prisoners. Very frequently they face torturing, they face failure to provide medical aid, which resulted in death of a number of political prisoners in places of containment, unfortunately. On top of that, the political prisoners are being attempted to be punished. They are being put to a confinement cells, to single cells. They are prohibited to meet their relatives, their family members. They are prohibited to write letters home, and those letters written to them should get to them for sure, because we will be handing them over in a way those letters reach them. But writing a letter, in fact, is very easy. It's the easiest thing that we can do to support the political prisoners. And in fact, those letters are very intense support for them, because even when they are in difficult conditions, when they are in the places of confinement in temporarily occupied Crimea and in Russian Federation, but when they receive those letters, they understand that the society remembers them, that their resistance before their detention was not in vain, that the citizens of Ukraine and the global community, they remember about the political prisoners and they wait them to return home. Frequently, when we take part in different activities, both in Ukraine and outside Ukraine, we are being asked how to support the political prisoners, and we emphasize that the first thing that can be done is to write a letter. Even if you don't know whom to address this letter exactly, you can write a depersonalized letter, because in a confinement cell in Crimea there are 10 to 15 political prisoners in one confinement cell, and even if one of them gets a letter, they read it all together. And within those 10 years of occupation, human rights organizations had a lot of activities with writing letters. I remember there were book forums before, and art arsenal, and other different human rights activities. And those letters, they really always have quite an intense feedback from the families of the political prisoners, because we're aware of the stories when the political prisoners were treated very bad at the places of detention. But when the prison workers see that the prisoners get letters, let alone the letters from abroad, their attitude changes and their condition may improve. So we count on that, and we urge all of the Ukrainians and international community to write letters to the political prisoners and thus to support them. Thank you. Victoria, based on what you've seen, what you've heard from the families of the political prisoners, is there a chance for our political prisoners to get those letters? Yes, we do everything we can do. We take all the efforts to make sure that those letters are written, dispatched, and delivered. Thank you, Miss Larisa. It's not a secret to anybody that in Crimea and other occupied territories, the first ones to be oppressed and arrested were the Ukrainian journalists and authors and all those who were taking an active pro-Ukrainian position. So in your opinion, to what extent this activity may become a tool to support them? Well, you know, tomorrow will be 39-year birthday of Remzi Bekirova, who is currently imprisoned. He is convicted for 19 years, by Russian court, and his wife Khalida and their kids will be thinking about him for an umpteenth time this day, and they will beg Allah and anyone else to have their father and husband brought back home next year if it's not possible to be done this year. But we understand how complicated is this way of return and how difficult it is for the children who were educated in such a system of coordinates, whether there is justice. Basically, the punishment is only for those who violate the rights and freedoms, human rights, but not for those who protect those rights and freedoms. And their father, he was fighting to protect their rights and freedoms. And this is why he ended up behind the bars as a terrorist, as an extremist. It's an interesting, very sensitive person who witnesses with all methods possible what's going on with them, and his wife Khalida is his communicator of the way he sees the world, how he supports his friends, how his friends support him, and she spreads this information among the Crimean theater community and Ukrainian community with regard to what's going on there. In fact, what and are people subject to those who end up there, those who just feel, you know, it's such a thing like you end up in an injustice vacuum, in a vacuum of unjust attitude, and this opportunity to disperse this injustice, it can be done with the letters, because when we identify difference, we let the people know that they are not left alone. It's like an oxygen that seeps with those letters to those people, you know, the oxygen of freedom. And basically people who wield the word good, such as civil journalist Remzi, that those can be poets, journalists. So when you wield the word in such conditions, your word is under threat. So back in year 21, PEN Ukraine launched in coordination with ZMINA a program called Solidarity Bots. Right now you can find by the tag what it means, and I urge you to do so. So we wanted to support the people of word, the media persons, civil journalists, the writers, poets who were imprisoned, who are political prisoners, and we've assigned a person to each such prisoner. You can check out the stories that were written, you can check out the podcasts that were recorded. What do we tell about every single hero? How do we support them, you know? I don't completely agree with the fact that writing letters is easy. It's not easy at all. It's difficult to write the people, even to our family members, because we don't even have such a habit anymore. We don't even know what to start with. But it's a story when you are responsible for the safety and security of a person who ended up in such conditions. So I want to emphasize, because I'm going to write it myself, and I can share my experience on how to do it. So you can just write a made-up story in Russian language. Obviously avoid any things that may tip off, say, blue and yellow nails, but you can basically describe the blossom of peaches. Basically the figs and peaches are like a fruit symbol of Crimea, you know. The fig, it's very illustrative. It's a childish and naive moment, but at the same time it helps a person to feel themselves home. And sometimes it's way more than we can imagine. It's one of the simple human rights actions when we feel lack of protection. desperation. So what can we do? I cannot become a superwoman. I cannot grab Remzi and others, bring Crimea back, bring it back to Ukraine. I just cannot do it right now, just like the majority of people, but writing a letter takes some effort. For that, we just need to know how to write and do not be indifferent persons and try to congratulate Remzi with his birthday. He may not be able to see that, but holiday and his children will see that, but that's the moment of solidarity, solidarity with those who wait and those who rely on us as the society, and it's our obligation to fulfill that expectation to the best extent possible. Thank you. Mr. Alexei, I would like to ask you about the efforts, or probably super efforts made by the MFA to bring our people back, and to what extent such activity may help you in your work. Thank you very much. With no doubt, I think that this initiative is very timely and relevant. I would like to say that today it's a sad day. It is the beginning of Russian aggression against Ukraine that started 10 years ago, and all those 10 years Russia exercises repressions. The occupational Russian government exercises repressions in occupied territories against our citizens. Those are the sad figures that were announced today about the number of our citizens who stay behind the bars in Crimea and Russian Federation, because unfortunately some of the citizens were deported outside the Crimean Peninsula by occupational authorities. It's a sad statistics, and what we can do today, in fact, is two things. First, it's publicity, maximum publicity, and such activities support such publicity, and thus we may protect our citizens who end up behind the bars. We do not have diplomatic representative office there. We cannot exercise any diplomatic protection of our citizens. This is why publicity creates additional protection, additional lever of influence over the Russian authorities to force them to ensure proper conditions for our citizens and exercise pressure on Russian Federation so they set our prisoners free. So it's another area of our work, the diplomatic pressure of Russian Federation, and this is where we work with international organizations. We add information about our citizens who stay imprisoned. We add this information to reports to international organizations. We cooperate with them. Relevant provisions are always present in the resolutions of General Assembly, which are always approved by us, and they contain the signal that Russia is supposed to set our citizens free. Also, International Crimean platform discusses this issue in their agenda, and also in different intergovernment activities on the level of the parliament. In all those areas we have clear signals from our partners about necessity to set our citizens free. We also have a public initiative called Mentorship for the citizens who end up behind the bars. We involve media persons abroad who exercise their public activities, and we will get them involved in writing letters to our citizens, and our foreign diplomatic representative office are informed about this initiative, and they will be getting actively involved in promotion of this initiative abroad. I would like to also mention that we work closely with the civil society of Ukraine, and we have expert dimension of Crimean platform. We have expert events held abroad, and we call all the Ukrainian experts to contact MFA, and we are always ready to help with any public events abroad to make sure that we extend maximum support to the publicity of these problems of our citizens who unfortunately ended up behind the bars in Crimea and Russian Federation. Thank you very much. So, Miss Elena, let's try to repeat the procedure for our spectators and listeners. I have a huge list of our prisoners of war, the Kremlin prisoners who are staying in these or those places of detention. So this list can be found. Let's repeat once again. Where can it be found? What is the address to write to, so we can get the most people possible involved in this activity? Well, just a small detail. Those are the civil hostages. They are not prisoners of war. This is why we only have 208 people on our list, and they're all Crimeans, because this is the specifics of our activity and our organization. So the list is right here. Thank you very much, Miss Larisa. I hope the cameras can let you discern what's written there. So this list contains less than 208 names, because we don't have the exact addresses of all those people, and we want all of your letters to reach them. So this information will be put on the website of the representative office. Also, this will be posted on the website of ZMINA and PEN, all of our colleagues. So we did it previous times, so you will be able to find this list there. Also, those physical locations, and we will write about those physical locations in the websites. So, because I probably calling the names of the streets will be difficult right away. And talking about how to write this letter, we will have this wonderful document and instruction. It's already available in the webpage of ZMINA. You just enter ZMINA online, their organization, and they have a section instructions. The instruction is both available in Ukrainian and English. It's an easy search, and there will be news about the start of activity. It will be all supported with the relevant links. You will be able to find everything there. So talking about the rules for the letters. First of all, it should be written in Russian language. Also, it's necessary to withhold or abstain from any political calls, political slogans, no matter how much we want to write Crimea is Ukraine, but for that person it may complicate their life, or the letter may just not reach them. Talking about sending, if you write letter from the mainland Ukraine, you may send it to the physical PO box of our colleagues from ZMINA, or to just Gmail. You can even make a drawing there, scan it, and we will hand it over to them. We will print it out. We have all the things set up for that. And to send it, you don't need to specify the full address of the person, where they are being kept, what exactly is the place of detention. For it will be enough just specifying the first and last name. For some of them the names repeat, and if you, for example, write Dear Mr. Alim, there is a lot of Alims, so you better specify what is the last name. But if you want to write a letter from abroad, you will need the physical address, so you can specify it yourself. Again, you show it in Russian language, so that institution, so to say, receives them. And also there are maybe some specific features for every single country from where you dispatch the letter. Probably you have to make a copy of the address in English or the language of the country you live at. Also, there will be links posted as we announce the beginning of the action, of the activity. So you will see Google Maps there, you will press allocation, and then you will see the list of people who stay there, and there is the address. What kind of establishment is that? Since we are a government agency, it will be presented in Ukrainian language, but you will be able to switch to Russian, to English, depending on what you need. And also please check in Google, there is such a Russian website with all the conditions, with all the prisons, the addresses. The most interesting thing is a feedback about those people. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, it's all very deeply detailized there, so you may check the correctness of the address over there. Misana, so writing to our Ukrainians that we remember them and we wait for them, so is it okay or is it already a prohibited format? No, I think that it's quite correct. Again, if we're not proclaiming any political slogans, the fact that we all support you, that we await for all of you to be set free, it's cool. And like Miss Larisa mentioned, it's good when you write some personal moments, like there is a lilac blossoming and a person who stays in Siberia and who just hadn't seen that lilac for a couple of years, you know, it may bring some sweet memories. So please write something personal, something light, so that person gets some good memories to take them away from that context of gray and lack of freedom. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Please join our conversation in case you have any comments or questions. Well, we don't have any comments or questions on the floor, so I would like to thank you for the great job that you're doing. I hope that really many of our Ukrainians, and not only Ukrainians, but also the representatives of other countries, will join this activity, this initiative, to remind all of our political prisoners that we are really waiting for them, that we remember, and we do hope that they will come back home soon. Dear friends, thank you very much for the interest to this topic. I would like to thank our security and defense forces, thanks to whom we have this opportunity to have events like this, and we continue working together for our victory. Glory to Ukraine.